Welcome to the Recovery Toolkit podcast. I'm Richie. I'm going to be your host. Throughout the series, we're going to talk to a range of different people who will give you tools and tips to help manage your recovery. The podcast itself is being brought to you by Epic Restart Foundation, who are a national charity who support people to rebuild a positive life after gambling harm. So this week on the Recovery Toolkit podcast, we are joined by Paul Mort. Paul, you were a big part of me in my recovery in my early days.
I appreciate that, mate.
Great to be here.
Class, I'm excited.
What I would, and in fact, I'm not even going to introduce you because I know you like to.
No, you introduce me. No, you do it. You do it. I want to hear what you got to say.
What I would say about Paul is he's a coach who, believe it or not, was 2 times UK Master Coach. Is that right? Yeah. So
all the way from South Shields, boy.
Paul has done really, really well for himself.
Yeah.
From humble beginnings to being able to run a really big coaching program for predominantly men, but I think the women now.
Yeah, the women in lockdown, women bullied me into coaching them as well. I still mainly coach men, but the women were like, "No, I'm joining whether you want me to or not."
Yeah.
So,
not a bad
and then you get
problem.
the odd snowflake who's like, "Well, it's only for men. You're breaking rules and that." And then I was like, "Well, actually, I coach women. You just have to be." You just have to force them. The right women, the right women, and the women that we've got now are all kicking ass. So, it's all good, mate. And I feel very. One, thank you for having me on. I feel very blessed to be on every podcast that I get invited. And I'm always like, holy shit, you want me to tell my story and share some of the things that I've learned. And I feel quite blessed to be able. I mean, it's a lot of hard work, but to be able to do what I do and impact people's lives, and I think more importantly, impact people's families. Like that's a big deal for me. Like, you probably get that as well. Like
touch on that a little bit.
Like it's not just about helping a man get his shit together and helping a man get over challenges and helping the man recover. It's about the impact that it has on his family, because you know as well as me, Richie, it's not just us that suffer.
Yeah.
It's the people who are closest to us that suffer as well.
100%.
And I don't want anyone's family to have to go through that when it's actually, I think about it, it's unnecessary. Like there's never been as much help, there's never been as much support. So a lot of it's unnecessary suffering. I don't want people to feel like I felt, I don't want their families to go through what my family went through.
Yeah,
So,
for me, I totally relate to that as well. My mum suffered massively.
Yeah.
But the thing that a lot of people don't talk about is my mum massively benefited from my recovery as well. So once I sorted my shit out and started getting a grip on my life, my mum was able to go and deal with her anxiety. She was able to go and deal with her things, you know. And I don't think I've shared this with many people, but my mum used to struggle to get the bus from Washington to the galleries, which was like one stop, less than a mile away.
I mean, I've been to the galleries a few times.
You wouldn't want to get the bus there either.
No.
But my mum now spends...
She just needed a stab vest.
Yeah, that's right. My mum now spends 3 or 4 nights a week on her own in a flat in Tynemouth, like a little holiday retreat. Do you know what I mean?
Sick.
So like that's a complete turnaround, not wanting to get on the bus.
And that's
on
mad, you know, that you say that, because again, I was on a podcast last week. Can you tell I've got a book coming out soon? Doing these podcasts, and we were talking about like a lot of us want people to listen to us. So I get guys who are like, why aren't my kids listening? It was like no one's listening. It was, you know, when you give advice and no one listens to your advice, and I'm like, we've got to become someone worth listening to. Yeah. You don't have a divine right for your parents to listen to you because you came from your dad's balls, and you don't have your kids. You got no divine right for your kids to listen to you. We think we're entitled to it. Yeah. Oh, well, you should listen to me because I'm your dad. And at the same time, I'm thinking, well, you're not doing this. You've done now to your life. You don't believe in yourself. You're not going after your dreams. You're not like, why would they listen? It's often I'll get a guy on a call. He'd be like, my kids aren't listening to me. I keep telling them what to do and they're not doing it. I'm like, well, would you listen to you? And they're like, maybe.
Yeah.
And then, because that's all that's happened to you. You become, I think when you level up, you become a bit of a lighthouse, and people just see you shining. That's what I try and do.
When I was on one of your programs, that was the saying that stuck with me.
Yeah, was it?
The lighthouse, not the tugboat. And that's the thing, and I say that all the time to people now.
Get your own house in order.
Yeah.
And I think that also a question I get asked, how do I help so and so? How do I help someone that's doing this? And it's the same deal. Like, help is just an invitation. It's like a party invitation. It's up to the other person what to do with the invitation. But actually, the best invitation that you can give somebody is the invitation of example. Like, I want a piece of that. Like, sometimes if I'm talking about my program sometimes, and I'm trying to sell it, right? Because I'm in business. And when I'm trying to sell it, sometimes I just stop and I say, listen, if you want energy and passion and enthusiasm like I've got, I'll just show you how to do that. Sometimes I'm like, well, you get Zoom calls and you get these events and we'll meet up every quarter at a football stadium. We do all these physical things as well. But if you just want energy and enthusiasm like this, I'll show you how to do it, because that shines through. We have people join the program, mate, that they'll just join as a result of spending time with us. Like, we've had a guy that came, I got one of those barrel saunas in my garden. The guy that fitted the sauna joined the program, that didn't even talk about it. A guy that fitted the ice bath joined the program, didn't even talk about it. It just happens through enthusiasm and through, you've got lived experience, but you've also got a living example. Yeah. You know, like a living testimonial.
Hope, isn't it?
It is.
And that's what I think we pride ourselves on, is we give hope and inspiration to other people.
Because if you can do it,
footsteps.
I feel like that as well. Sometimes, like, well, if I can fucking do it, then listen, you can do it. But then you'll get, oh, it's all right for you. My situation's different.
Yeah, I'm like, isn't it?
That's what you do. You get that from people? My situation's different. And it never is. It's an interesting thing, the letting go of the story thing, because I get asked about it all the time. Like, how do I move on from me ex who left me 3 years ago? How do I move on from a failed business? How do I move on from whatever? How do I get over heartbreak? And I'm like, you can't get over anything that you can't say thank you for. Yeah. Like, everyone's trying to get over something, move on from something, and I'm like, if you keep thinking about it, you're never going to get over it. And you think about it in only negative construct, you think that's only negative. Well, actually, if you sat down and you really reflected, you would see that everything that's ever happened to you, there is an element of things that, because of that, happened for you. There is a gift in everything. You just have to look beyond the whole initial pain and the initial story. And evidence even proves that 50% of your memories aren't even true. Yeah. So 50% of what you think happened isn't even true. That blows my head off. Yeah. But so I'm like, with everyone that I work with, because I get a lot of people that come my way who've had therapy, they've had counseling, and I can always tell because they're brilliant at telling a story. It's like rehearsed, it's colored in, it's like a script. Yeah. So I'm like, listen, if you want to move on to the next thing, you can't keep talking about that, because talking about your past, obsessing over it, doesn't change it. Yeah. So I'm not saying there's no value in looking back, but when you're looking back, you've got to be able to extract the right stuff. Yeah. Not repeat it all the time, because that just keeps bringing it up. But like, extract the right things, extract the gifts, extract the positives, the benefits and the upsides, and then use that to focus on the future. Like, you'll never let go of that while you still got resentment for it. Yeah. And resentment means that you're only seeing one side, right? You're only seeing one side if you resent it. So you can't resent it and move on from it. And if you don't then create a plan for your future, or goals or outcomes or a mission, there's nothing to move on from. There's nothing to move on to. Yeah. So you've got to, let go of it, or act like a fucking caravan attached to your arse until you do let go of it. But then you've also got to focus on the next thing. So many people are trying to like move on from something, but they've got nothing to move on to. Yeah. There's nothing to shift their focus to.
I think that's something we see massively in recovery, you know, whether it's from drink, drugs, gambling, whatever it is. People need that story. Yes. For validation.
It becomes part of their identity, doesn't it?
Where I am. Yeah. And it's something I took from your book, actually, was Cool Story.
Yeah, Cool Story, bro.
And I used that.
Funny enough, I've got in my next book, I've got Cool Story 2.0.
So people will laugh when they watch this, because I use Cool Story all the time. And I kind of palm it off as my own sometimes. But and once I read that changed everything.
This month, I've just read it again. I've just finished it. He's in the UK right now, actually, Dr. John. But there was some reason I couldn't go. Oh, I've got an event Friday at St. James's Park, of all places.
Ironic.
So, one thing that I was going to say to you here was, you might have had this, and we haven't even said whether we're going to talk about this is here as well, is when people are trying to stop doing, so we're talking about moving on from the past and focusing on the future. That's all about focus and attention. One of the challenges that I have with people that struggle, who are trying to recover, is they're always putting their attention on the thing that they're trying to recover from. So you're talking about the thing that you're trying to forget. Yeah. You're trying to forget that you like to gamble, but that's all you ever talk about. Yeah. And this so how can you move on? How can you're giving it attention, starve it, and it dies?
Yeah. In my early recovery, it was like, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict, I'm a compulsive gambler. Yeah. And after about a year, I was like, I'm not them things anymore. Yeah. Why am I still calling myself it? Because if I'm a compulsive gambler, when I'm triggered or when shit hits the fan, I'm going to gamble. You know, because that's
a strange thing.
Myself.
It's a strange. I don't know where I'm at with this, because I get asked about things like that all the time. What do you think of AA and that? I'm like, well, I've never been. Yeah. But I'm not sure how I feel, because again, I think focus or attention is the currency of transformation. So whatever you give attention to, you add momentum to. So it just builds and builds. And I'm not sure how useful, and clearly it works at some level, right? Yeah, yeah. But I'm not sure how useful it is to keep talking about and surrounding yourself with people who are talking about the thing that you're trying to move on from.
Yeah.
I wouldn't enjoy that.
Yeah.
And
that's why
I'm trying to forget about that.
It serves a purpose.
Yes.
You know, and I wouldn't be where I am today without 18 months in it.
Yeah.
You know,
Is that how long you in for?
I'm still in it, technically. I might dip in and out every now and again. But I went religiously for 18 months, you know. And
That's what you needed at the
what
time.
it done is it provided us a safe space.
Yes.
You know, I was around other people who were a little bit further ahead of us.
Yes.
I had a bit of
useful.
hope and inspiration. And then the other thing was, I didn't know what else to fucking do.
Yeah.
You know, so it was somebody said do it. So I was like, well, I'm clinging on to that until I learned something different.
Yeah.
And then there's like obviously 12 steps and you work through a program and that was great.
Yeah.
But that like whet my appetite for personal development.
Oh, sick.
So that led on to coming and working with people like yourself and a couple of other coaches that I've done a bit of work with. But it was that whole thing and ended up back at university.
Yeah.
And that was like, well, how do I become a better
was the
version
catalyst.
of me?
Yeah.
Without that program, I wouldn't have then got on the next thing. Yeah. And when I really dug into it, because I'm a bit of a like proper geek around this type of stuff, like, well, where did the 12 steps come from? And you can take the principles of 12 step all the way back to Buddhism.
Yes, I've heard about that.
Know, and all that sort of stuff. So it's very sort of...
You start becoming obsessed with... I started becoming obsessed with like human behaviour.
Yeah.
Like, why do people do what they do? Why do I keep doing what I do? But I think once you know that, it's weird. Once you know that, you get a little bit of enlightenment. But I think you're also... The problem with personal development is... Before you get into it, you did the best you could with what you knew, right?
100%.
Once you want to say like that's now I know better, you're like, fuck, I know better now. So you get this little, it's a double-edged sword. So before I didn't know any better, right? And I got that, I didn't know any better. But then I'm like, well, I know better now. So my excuses, you're right, disappear. There's no out anymore. So you just end up in this, you can't end up in a place where you're just beating yourself up and you're really hard on yourself. But again, that's a double-edged sword as well. Being hard on yourself is sometimes exactly what you fucking need. But at other times, it doesn't serve you at all. So that I think this whole game of personal development is just about balance. Like, there's no upside without a downside. There's no payoff without a drawback. Like, I think all of that applies everywhere. It's like this polarity. There's always polarity. There's always a good... Think about this. There are clearly benefits in gambling, or people wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
There are clearly some upsides.
And I say this
same with drinking, same with sniffing. There are clearly upsides, or you wouldn't do it.
Yeah, my story was that was my escape. I couldn't deal with my feelings. I couldn't deal with my emotions. So how the fuck am I going to make myself feel good about? Well, just make myself feel better. Make me, you know, and literally all I was doing was avoiding the real situations and real stuff that went on in my life that I just couldn't deal with.
So, gambling's a really interesting one because obviously with what I do, I get asked about it all the time, but I'm like, it's never been my thing. But everyone has that thing, doesn't it? For me, it was booze and sniff. And then at some level, to build a business, it actually is a fucking gamble anyway. I'm taking risks all of the fucking time. Yeah. Like every day, I'm gambling on myself, I suppose.
Calculated though, isn't it?
It's calculated. There is. I mean, even gambling's calculated, isn't it? Because you're looking at the stats, you're looking at the numbers, you're probably getting tips off people in that. But I think that the thing is with business, there's often a plan B. Yeah. You can recover it, or it takes longer. There's no instant payoff, so it doesn't feel like gambling. Yeah. Like you've got right, I put a bet on, I'm going to get an instant payoff because there's a buzz putting it on, and then there's a buzz if you win, and then obviously there's... Yeah. You're not taught this shit, right? Yeah,
so if somebody's getting into recovery, you know, they've put down their whatever drug of choice we like to call it, what do you think is important that they go and do? You've spoke about, like, I know you always talk about comps.
So I like looking at, you know, Richie, I like looking at being honest with the habit. Because I'll say it as soon as someone tells me what the habit they're trying to, I'm like, what's the upside of the habit? What's your benefit of it? And then you'll be like, oh, no. I'm like, well, there is, or you wouldn't do it. We don't do anything that doesn't have a potential or perceived upside. People talk to me about self-sabotage. I'm like, there's no such fucking thing. You call it self-sabotage after you've done it and you're full of regret. When you do it, it's self-soothing. You think it's going to make you feel better, and it does for a little bit. Yeah. But then after, that's self-sabotage. You did something that wasn't in line with who you said you would be, or you did something that wasn't in line with your goals or your mission or whatever that is. But to start with, I think there is actually some use in looking at, okay, what's the payoff of this behavior? And the reason I like to do that is, one, to give yourself some honesty, but B, I'm like, it's not the thing that you want, it's the feeling. Yeah. It was never the Coke that I wanted. It was the feeling. Yeah. It was never the drink that I wanted. It was the feeling. It was never probably wasn't even the win that you wanted.
Yeah.
It was probably the feeling, just the feeling. It wasn't even the money that you wanted.
No, but
it was
goes
the
past
feeling.
that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't know with gambling, but it was never about. I bet it was never about money. I mean, until it was.
Yeah, it was. The thought was it was about money because you get to a point where it's financial ruins you, you know, and then it's always about money.
Yeah.
It's not because you know you're never going to win.
Yeah.
You know, I probably knew 6 years before I stopped gambling, I was suicidal, and I was like, well, actually, there's a way out. You know, I'll either win loads of money and I'll get out, or if not, and the goal gets too much, then I'll jump off the Tyne Bridge. That was my story.
Shit,
but when you get to that point, it's not about money, you know, ever. But it's about how do I just escape what's going on in my life. You know, and that's what it was.
And you can get
me.
that feeling in loads of other places. That's why I like to look at it.
Yeah.
What feeling am I looking for? I was looking for a buzz, and there's so many more beneficial things that can give you that buzz. The problem is with a lot of it, Richie, I think the things that we're choosing to give us the feeling are very convenient. They're never that difficult, are they?
No,
think about it. Placing a bet's never been easier. Never been easier.
Yeah, totally.
Getting a drink, getting Coke has never been easier.
Anything though now, like you can get anything delivered to your door.
You can in an instant.
You know, sex, food,
everything,
cocaine, anything can be.
But you think about the things that you think about. Well, people say it to me. I'm like, "What are you going to do on Saturday night instead of drink?" I'm just going to stay in. I'm like, "You're fucking not." Like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym on a Saturday night. No, you're not, because the things that so you can get the same feeling from somewhere else, but often it's not as convenient. It's a little bit harder to get the feeling, but it's still worth examining it because you're like, well, okay, that's why I do that. Instead of saying, well, I'm just not going to feel that feeling anymore, which is bullshit. How else can I feel like that? Do you know what I mean? How else can I switch off? That's one of the favorite ones. How can I switch off? I'm like, well, for a start, listen, your brain doesn't even switch off when you're fucking asleep.
Yeah.
When you're asleep, your brain's still going. So why are you trying to switch it off when you're awake? But there's loads of other things that you can lose yourself in, because that's what often we're trying to do is we're trying to, it's almost like we're trying to forget about time. We're trying to forget about, there's loads of other things that you can do to do that. For me,
the first thing for me and my whole thing was football. Yeah. You know, I would go and play football and I was gone. And like, it was just football. I was on the pitch playing football, you know, and then I got quite good at it. So then I got self-worth from that, and people wanted us to be part of teams.
Yes.
You know, you're decent at it. And then I'm like, oh, I've got something here. I've got something to offer the world.
You've got something to offer. You feel important.
Yeah, and that was the thing that I got. And then
you've got the thing to look forward to. You've got the game to look forward to. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
You've got the match to look forward to.
You've got a community of people. You know, you've got people who like.
And then that was.
And then
did he stop?
And well, just wasn't good enough in the air. Well, I got injured. I was playing with Scruggs at Darlington, got injured, and then it was like, well, what am I going to do now? Yeah. You know, I've always since I was 5-year-old, I wanted to be a footballer. Yeah. And I was 18. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not going to be a footballer. Yeah. How do I deal with that? Yeah. Yeah. Found gambling. Aye. And that was the start.
And that's how old you were?
Yeah, yeah.
Shit, man.
Yeah. So that's how it happened, you know.
And isn't that all that thing that you mentioned, all those things are what you, because I still haven't answered the question that you asked me. All of those things are just what you're looking for. You can get them somewhere else. So you lost them and you had a void and you never filled the void. Yeah. You've just got to have a vision of your future that excites you. Goals, missions, outcomes. You can go short term, you can go long term. There's a million ways to do it. You've got that old school, that whole smart way of setting goals. Yeah. I'm not a giant fan of the realistic piece of that, but that's just me. There's where do you want to travel to? What do you want to achieve? How do you want to look? What do you want to do? There's so many ways to do it that it's not even, I mean, we could start on
What's the most important part of that then?
Ooh, yeah. So here's where I like to start with people. I think, and this is only a change that I've had probably in the last 3 years, Richie, 2 years maybe. I believe that the best part of being human are experiences. So we work in 3 different areas. We start with experiences. Where do I want to travel to? What do I want to see? Who do I want to see perform? Who do I want to hang out with? Who do I want to meet? Where do I want to eat? So whatever you've got to do it based around what you love doing. I believe that often the problem when we set goals is they're based around things that we hate. Societal we build plans around things that we hate. We think we have to suffer to get what we want. So I like to make it about experience. Where do I want to travel? What do I want to do when I'm there? All that kind of stuff. Because that's the shit that I'm going to remember when I die. That's the shit that I'm going to talk about at Christmas with my kids when I'm 70 and they're fucking 20 or 30 or whatever. Like, that's the shit that we're going to be talking about. Remember, Dad, remember when we went there? Remember when we ate there? Remember when you had that mad meal, Dad? Dad, remember when you ate that sheep's bollock? Do you know what I mean? Like, all that kind of shit, that's what my life's made of. I want to get to the end of my life and not think, thank fuck, that's over. Holy shit, that was a fucking ride. When I'm on my deathbed, I don't want to be thinking, oh, I wish I'd done that, but I was worried about what fucking what my old teacher would think. I don't want that. I want to fucking experience it all. I want to have it. I wouldn't say I want to have it all. My life became, and I like nice things, but my life became more about the places that I travel to, the stadiums that I go to, the matches that I see, the fights that I go to, the cities that do you know what I mean? I fucking love all of that. The challenges that I've taken on. And then I think the next piece of that is clearly to make that happen, there has to be some level of growth.
Yeah.
Because some of that's going to need funded by money. So therefore I'm going to have to change my beliefs around money, change the action that I take about earning it or creating it. I'm clearly going to have some mental shifts, maybe some physical shifts. So how do I need to grow? And growth goals can be, that's obviously a lot of challenges, etc. And then you've got the last piece, which is what I think missing, is impact. How am I going to impact the fucking world? Who am I going to impact? So for me, it's like, get a book deal and get it on the shelves in WH Smith. It's build a YouTube channel. It's build a following of XYZ. So if I help enough people get what they want, then I'm going to get what I want eventually. So I'm always big on impacting people. That's why I go in the jails. That's why I do all those talks, because I get to impact more people. And actually that impact thing, I think about this all the time. Do you know when people talk about, I asked this question on my Facebook. I love asking questions just to see where people are at and what they're struggling with. I said, what do you think is the most important factor in long-term change? Because short-term change is actually not that hard.
No.
Anyone can suffer for a few weeks. Anyone can do a 28-day challenge. But continuing that whole thing on is hard as fuck.
Yeah.
I was going to say anyone can do 75 hard, but I wouldn't even fucking start that thing. It's mental. It's mental. So it's I've got a lot of respect for anyone that can. But a lot of people would say, like, the big why. Like, when you know your why, the how's easy. But I actually believe that the who is more important.
Right.
Anything that I've done that has been hard, that has been challenging, that I found very difficult, that I've got done anyway, is because other people were going to be impacted by it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? When we put ourselves on the line, and when you think about the who, for me, the who is more important than the why. Because you think about a lot of things, you wouldn't do it for yourself, but you would do it for someone else. I mean, this Everest thing is for me, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, my kids are going to see that.
Yeah.
I'm the dad that is living by example. That's doing what I said I would. That's challenging myself and pushing myself. And then eventually my kids will do that, and I'm the same with my clients. 3 of my clients are coming to Everest now. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're going to be impacted by it, then their families are impacted, then it's going to make a great story, then be a couple of chapters in my book that people will get inspired by, and then it'll be in my live show that fucking hopefully thousands and thousands of people will see. So that whole, if we focus on the who, it's really important that you've mentioned your mom already.
Yeah.
Because there's times where you're like, well, if I do this, then it's not that big a deal because no one will know. But then if you think, well, my kids are going to have to do my shit mood tomorrow, my wife's going to have to put up me lying in bed all day. That's a very big that's leverage for me.
Totally.
I had no mates when I was rock bottom because I'd cut them all out. I hadn't spoken to my mum for 6 months.
The thing that really got me in that situation, though, I was like, I want to help other people. I want to give back. Yeah. That helped me make sense of my past. I've been through all that shit, so I can now go and help other people. Right?
That's what I say to so many people.
That's me changing the story, you know. But then somebody called us out and said, but why do you want to help other people, Richie? What's in it for you? And I was like, I'll just... it'll make us feel good. It'll give a sense of purpose. And he was like, so why do you want to help other people? I was like, well, because it helps me.
Yeah, exactly.
And that became my value. You know, it was help other people to help yourself, not just help other people because you're a really good person and you want to help the world.
Mate, I said this right at the start.
You get something back for it, don't you?
Everything we do self-serving, right? Yeah. You think about people that are people pleasers. They do it because at the time, they think there's a benefit in them they think it's a benefit in them. It's not self-sabotage, it's self-serving. So you know when people are like, oh, I'm just selfless, I'm like, you're not. You do that thing that you don't really want to do because at the time you thought it would make you feel better than worse. You thought it would make you feel better than more than it would make you feel worse. It's just afterwards you're like, why the fuck did I say yes to this?
Yeah,
I've had loads of things like that where I'm like, what the fuck have I said yes to this for?
So then
thankfully this is not one of them.
How hard is it after that though to then say I don't want to do it after you've already said yes?
Here's what I say. I say I can't do it or I don't do it. This is because I get this all the time. I don't do that anymore. So if I get asked for something, I'm just like, I don't do it. It becomes that there's no, when I say I don't, there's no negotiation. Yeah. This is what happened when I kind of stopped drinking. I was like, actually, I don't drink. It's not like I'm trying not to drink. At the start, it was, I'm not drinking for a year.
So that's language?
Huge language, and then your identity starts to shift to it from someone that's trying not to drink to someone that doesn't drink. Yeah. And I've never said, I don't say I'm teetotal, I just say I don't drink. I'm not, I might drink again at some point. At this point, I don't think I will, but I just think when you start to change that language, it fucking matters. And that's a really easy way to, it's kind of you think about this, people that people please, the problem is boundaries. Yeah. When I say I can't, when I say I can't, that usually means there's some kind of leeway. Oh, I can't do it. They're like, oh, well, there's a can in there still. Yeah. When I say I don't, that's like, it's not a possibility. I don't do that anymore. Sorry, I don't do that. Sorry, I don't do meeting people for... No, I can't meet you for coffee. It's, I don't meet people for coffee.
Yeah. I done a workshop.
Not even my wife.
The saying that come out of the workshop that stuck with me was, it's easy saying no when there's a bigger yes. So for me, that was huge.
Yeah,
so
that's nice.
Once I worked out what my values were,
yeah.
If somebody asks us to do something that doesn't align with my values, it's easy for me to say no to that.
Solid.
So,
I love it.
So I can move across to like, well, actually, they're my 5 values that I want to live my life by. And if I'm not congruent with them, I'm back being a dick.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and you'll always feel, and there'll always be resentment when you're doing the thing that you don't really want. Totally. There'll always be some level of, and you normally get passive aggressive as well. Yeah. You complain about it, but it's like, you could have just said no. But I love that saying, like, every time you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. Yeah. Here's how much I've got to dial down. A very good friend of mine, who I've known for about 18 years, he taught me how to speak, Michael Heppel. Speaking to me event next Friday. He wanted me to speak in an event in Durham.
Right.
He wasn't going to pay me because he's my mate. And normally, and it was on a Saturday, so he knows he's challenging me. He knows he's pushing the boundaries. So, and it was 17 minutes. The event was called 17. And he knows he's pushing the boundaries of not paying us. I wouldn't ask him anyway, to be fair. I know his fee's $9,000 an hour as well. So he knows he's not paying us. He knows it's on a Saturday. And he knows it's only 17 minutes. So he texted us, he said, Paul, I'd love you to speak at this event. I've already looked, you're playing Birmingham away. Or he knew that if it's on a Saturday, the main reason I'm not going to go is because if there's football on, I don't work. But he knew that I probably wouldn't go to Birmingham away. Isn't that cool? So that other people know me values. They know that if it's on a weekend, it's not fucking happening. Or you're going to have to offer me something mental to go and do it. Because if I say yes to it, it's got to be, like you say, it's got to be a bigger yes than something else. Yeah, I love that. It's good. Every time I say no to something, in fact, I'm writing a keynote for Friday called The Life-Changing Magic of Saying No. Mm-hmm. That when I say no to this, what am I saying yes to? Yeah,
and that's what it is, isn't it? You're saying yes to something else. So something you mentioned very early on was ice baths, saunas, stuff like that.
Yes. Like ice baths I've been doing since 2016, or cold showers I started with. And I started in that game because in 2016, I was still really struggling with anxiety. Like, that was when I was taking diazepam to get on a train. Not even kidding. I'd had, at that point in my life, I'd had panic attacks in a taxi. I had to get out of a taxi and walk home. I remember being on a bus with my kids going from Siam Park in Tenerife, the water park, back to the hotel. I had to get off the bus. Random. I've been sedated on flights. So in 2016, I'd read that regulating your breathing, your response to stress can help with anxiety, because the first thing you do when you get in a cold shower and ice bath is go, and that's exactly what you do when you're scared. That's exactly what you do when you panic. So I started it for that. And then I've kind of just been consistent with it ever since. I'm not the guy posting videos and that anymore. I just fucking...
Done that for 3 years.
I don't post videos of it, and people say, do you still do it? Well, I learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza that you can change the way you feel by thought alone. I'm like, okay, how do we do that? Well, one of the things we can do is, and I've said this at the start about attention, where we place our attention is where we place our energy. So, and that's why I was saying, listen, if you want to get over any addiction, you've got to stop. You've almost got to stop talking about it. You've got to stop reading about it. I would leave all of those groups because I'm just getting people reminding me of something that I'm trying to forget. Because when I talk about it, it brings up all the older... Me, I'm sure that when I talk about Coke, I must go, every time I say it. It's a random thing, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So even with anxiety, like if I keep talking about anxiety, I'm bringing up the same shit that I'm trying to forget. Yeah. So with journaling, I ask myself questions. So if where I place my attention is where I place my energy, how do I decide where I place my attention? Well, attention is controlled by questions. So I ask myself questions that direct me towards empowerment, towards positivity, towards ambition, towards energy, towards impacting people, to what I want. So I actually have this concept that I've been working on. It's in my new book, actually. It's called Blissipline. It's having the discipline to only place your attention on things that make you feel good. Yeah. So that is what you want and what's working. So that is how you want to feel, what you want to move towards, who you want to impact. What's working is what wins have I had, what achievements have I had, what's working really well for me right now, who did it impact today, what do I appreciate about today? So all that kind of shit. This Blissipline has been a game changer for a lot of people. And I do that Blissipline thing through journaling and meditation. If I don't do that, if you're not thinking about what you want, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about what you don't want. If you're not focused on what's working, you're focused on what's not working. And this whole concept of attention, honestly, is the dramatic transformation for anybody that I work with. If they can control their attention, they control their focus, they control what happens in their life, they control what goes on, they control their attitude, they control the way that they feel. Just think about that, right? I say to people, when they don't believe, like, what is attention? It's what you think about, it's what you talk about, it's what you read, it's what you watch, it's what you retain information on. Like, that's, so you see how important that is now.
Yeah, totally.
So what I think about, I'm tending going to take action on most of the time. So my behaviors and my thoughts line up. So journaling is the most important part of my fucking day. Yeah. Once that's done, I direct my mind towards the things that I want and what's working. And then I can go from there. Because often we often think that it's output that matters the most. Doing. But what comes before the action is a thought. So this journaling thing is just to almost unravel my thoughts so that I'm basically telling my brain what I want it to think. So if I don't do that, then I become almost a victim to my thoughts. I think about what I don't want to have happen. I think about all the people that let me down. I think about all the things that could go wrong. I think about what's not working, what I've done wrong, what I wish was different. So I'm basically choosing what I want to think that day. So that's the first thing. Second thing would be meditation. I've done a lot of work with meditation. I've worked with the Ashaya monks. I've worked with the Transcendental meditation people. I've worked with monks. I've worked with Dr. Joe Dispenza. His meditation really woke me up, because meditation, again, like journaling, has a weird reputation. You've got to empty your mind of thoughts. That's bullshit. That's also impossible. Like, I say, people still try, it is about emptying your mind. I'm like, well, how would you know your mind was empty? You'd have to have a thought about it, wouldn't you? Oh, my mind's empty. Well, it's not empty then, is it? It's not empty. It's not empty. So what I use meditation now for is almost a mental rehearsal. Yeah. What I want to have happen today. So here's what I'll do.
So it's like more visualization of where you want to go.
And measuring backwards. So the things that I do in the journal, mate, I'm now doing when I meditate. And I call it we have this thing called the 6-phase Blissipline meditation. So the first thing we do, and I basically what I did, Richie, last year, is I took everything that I've learned from all of the meditation practices that I've ever done, including Yoga Nidra, which is brilliant as well. And I put it into one meditation for my guys. Imagine me doing a guided meditation. In fact, I say this to the lads all the time. Doing the guided meditation is one of the hardest things I've ever done, because I have to talk like this in a very gentle manner. Hard as fuck. Mate, honestly, hard as fuck. So what we do in that meditation is we do what's called a body scan, which is what they do in Yoga Nidra. It's amazing. We do some breathing stuff. We set an intention for the meditation. We do a body scan. And then I just ask questions in the meditation. Now I want you to bring up a picture of someone that you love. And what starts to happen then is you start to actually fill up with the feeling. Once you start to picture that person that you love in the face, you'll smile while you're meditating. That's an example. You can change your body, because that's where you feel emotions, by thought alone, which is fucking wild if you think about it. It's wild. Because if I told you to tell me the story about something that's really pissed you off recently, you'd feel pissed off in an instant. Anger. You'd start talking faster. You'd swear more. Your voice would go up. That's how important these thoughts are. So I'll go like, picture the face of something that you love, bring somebody else up. And then I want you to think about, over the last couple of weeks, something that just went really well. Like, you created that, put yourself back. So I do that measuring backwards bit like we would in a journal. And then I'm like, and what are you working towards right now? Like, what are your goals? What's something you want to make happen? Now I want to imagine that you're already there. I don't like calling it visualization, because, again, meditation already is being bastardized, and people have this connotation of it, this mental picture of it. Idea, so that's what I feel about with visualization. So I quite like the term mental rehearsal. Yeah. I'm just rehearse. And I'll even ask questions like, what do you want to have happen today? What's one thing you're going to take action on today? And then people start to get excited. It means that when you come out with a meditation, you've experienced that whole range. Yeah. You've relaxed. Then you've gone backwards and created that. Because what happens when you measure backwards is, like, what's working is that creates the feeling of confidence. Actually, evidence, things are going well. I've got confidence. I've got pride. I'm generating the feeling of self-belief, which people just think's going to happen. It doesn't happen. You've got to work at it. You've got to create it. And then we're doing the next thing, which is we're creating ambition. We're creating excitement. We're creating inspiration. We're creating intention. So you come out of the meditation ready to fucking dance. Do you know what I mean? Rather than, I think a lot of the meditations that I've done in the past, they were relaxing, and I still do that relaxing part. They were relaxing, but they left me feeling a bit flaccid.
Yeah.
Like, that was nice. But now I'm coming out and people are ready to fucking go. They're fired up, and this is in 15 minutes. So I've just found that type of meditation, we get present, right, with the body scanning and the breathing, we get present. We basically dial out. I use the dispenser in space shit, right? I don't say it like that. And then we get into the thing of measuring backwards, which creates confidence. And then we're getting excited and inspired for the day. Yeah. I even ask people, what behavior do you not want to demonstrate today? And that feels a little bit weird, but I'm actually, most of the things that you do that you later regret, like, you did it unconsciously.
Yeah.
You've put a bet on before you even knew it.
Yeah.
Before you even thought about it. I've ordered Coke and I'm like, there was no thought. It was just habitual. Yeah. So what I like to do is I like to ask that. So it's like setting an alarm clock. Mm-hmm. How do you not want to behave today? How do you not want to feel today? So when that starts coming up, you're like, oh shit, I said I wouldn't do that today, and here's what I'm going to do instead. So it's like a little alarm clock, and you've got two options when you start thinking. So mine might have been today, I think, was don't eat like a dick. Like, legit, I'm not on a diet or anything. I've just got base camp coming up, and I've got this torn hamstring, so I can't train as much as I'd like. So I'm like, don't eat like a dick. So now when I get the temptation, I've set the reminder that I'm not going to, basically I'm reminding myself of who I said I wouldn't be. So that when I pick something up, I might fucking spit it out. Or I might be like, what the fuck am I doing? Mm-hmm. So I like to do that as well. And then in terms of the other stuff, so we've got meditation, we've got journaling. I think just knowing your values. So I value exercise, not all exercise. I value exercise. I value challenge. I've always got to have something to move towards. And I think just getting back, I think men stop doing what they love at some point, particularly business owners that I work with. I'll be like, what do you love doing? They're like, I fucking forgot.
Yeah.
I love drinking. I'm like, you don't. You love the feeling of being drunk because you forgot what it's like to do things that you love. So I'm like, I have to go to football almost every week. I have to train jiu-jitsu, and I've started paddle. Have you done that yet?
No, but I've
Where
seen
do you
it.
live, Richie?
Just Washington.
So in Durham,
It's
it's fucking mint. It's fucking mint. It's mint. It's mint. That's how I tore my hamstring. Tore my hamstring playing. My wife was like, I thought this was the sport where you weren't going to get injured. I'm like, fucking so did I, but I got competitive, didn't I? Competitive, no warm-up. So I think doing a lot of things that you value is massive. Massive. If I've always got them, then I'm good. And whenever I have those, I'm not sure if you're going to ask this, but I think it's worth covering. Whenever I have those days that a lot of people would call down days, or days where you can't be arsed, well, that very rarely happens for a start, because I think I also make sure I treat rest, recovery, renewal as serious as I treat going hard, because I like going hard. I like hustling. I like pushing myself. But I also treat that rest and recovery as seriously, whereas in the past, I would push, I'd sprint, and then I'd hit a wall.
So how important is that, do you think, in the bigger picture?
Think about an athlete, right? Think about an athlete. They treat that rest and recovery as critical and as important, and with as much importance and as seriously as they would treat the work. Yeah. They have their taper weeks, they have their down weeks, they have their deload weeks. But we don't have that, and you got to think about it like being... Life is not a fucking marathon, is it? It's a series of sprints.
Totally.
My holidays are all booked for the year, whereas in the past, I would need a holiday. Now I'm like, I don't need a holiday. I know it's coming. I want one. I like that chance to switch. I like traveling. It's not as though I'm not creating a life that I want to escape from. I love traveling. It's part of my values. I love taking my kids everywhere.
Training for marathon doesn't excite us. You know, the thing that excites us most is standing with the 11 guys or the 12 guys at the end, getting a picture took. Yeah. Because that's the whole journey that we took to get there.
It is. You know
and it's that support system that we've
It's funny you mentioned running, you know, because I used to hate running. And it's mad. I hated it when I was shit at it. Yeah. But then I got quite good. And I was gutted when I got injured, because I was doing a 10K a week and usually 1 or 2 5Ks, right? Mm-hmm. And enjoying it with my wife, doing a run together and that. She's fitter than me, like. But then every time I went for a run, I'd have all these fucking mad ideas. Yeah. So it would
create
come
space, doesn't it?
Mate, it was mad. I'd have to no shit. Had to start taking different headphones because I needed to go, hey Siri, open a new note. Yeah. Because I was getting all these ideas and I was like, shit, I could say this. And honestly, there's so many ideas that I had to have Siri to open up new, you know, your notes in your phone.
Yeah.
My notes in my phone, I've got maybe 3,000 or 4,000 notes in my phone with ideas, with sayings, with quotes, with emails in them, with fucking social media posts where I've just, and running, I now started to get why people liked it. But I didn't get that until I improved.
Yeah.
Because I think there's also this place.
Level of comfort, isn't there?
There is a level of comfort, and I just think that I'm like, do you hate it or are you just shit at it?
Do
you know what I'm saying?
The thing's funny because like the lads that are in like kind of my circle who are all doing this, they're like, right, we have to do heart rate training. You're not allowed your heart rate to go above X. Yeah. I'm like, that's boring as fuck.
Oh mate, there's
I just want to. I'm like, I want to die. I want to die on this run.
And you want to get it done?
And if it's a 10K run and I can do it in 45 minutes, I want it done in 45. I didn't want to do 55 because that's another 10 minutes. You know, and do you know what happens
do you say to yourself, I'm just going to take it slow and steady, and then you've got fucking Eye of the Tiger on in your headphones?
You're off, and you look at your watch and you're like, I'm on a PB here. So I'm just keep going.
And you're like, I know I said I was going to go easy, but that's zone 2 shit, man. So when I got the hamstring injury, the physio that I see is fucking brilliant, actually, Darren. And he was like, you need to do zone 2 on the bike, 30 minutes every other day. And I did 2, and I was like, mate, this is fucking horrendous. It's this new wave thing now where it's like, you shouldn't have goals. You should be grateful for what you've got. You should be appreciative of what you've got. And I'm like, well, why can't I do both?
I've got to have all of that.
Why can't I appreciate what I have, i.e. measure backwards? And why can't I have something else to aim for?
Yeah.
What's wrong with wanting more and wanting to be more and do more and have more? Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yeah. I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. People like, when you're going to be happy, when you're going to... I'm like, I am happy. But I have actually realised I love the hunt as much as I love getting the goal.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I'm
the
honestly,
anticipation of the achievement.
Anticipation. I remember when I was younger, people used to say, oh, you like the chase better than the shag, right? You know,
totally.
Yeah, I've mentioned shagging loads, but like that was what it was like when. And now I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm enthralled by the journey as much as as I enjoy the end bit.
Yeah.
Because I like doing hard things now. Not everything, but I'm like, well, I enjoy building a business, not just getting the money. Yeah. I enjoy the sales call, not just the fucking closing it. Do you know what I mean? Like I quite enjoy I enjoy things being hard on the journey. If I was to do this again, knowing what I know now, which is the important part, what would I do differently? So we've got to realize that when we're going after these goals, we did the best we could with what we knew. And like we said before, now I know better. What am I going to do different? Yeah. And that's how you get over mistakes. It's how you get over setbacks, disappointments, failures. It's just asking better questions instead of, oh, why am I so shit? Why did it go wrong? Like, you got to ask better questions. Knowing what you know now, what would you do different?
And I think a lot of people fall in the trap that they need somebody to ask them questions, but you can just ask them of yourself, can't you?
That's why journaling's so much fun.
That's
all I ever do is ask. I'm always asking, what's a better question? How can I get it? What's the best way to that? In fact, I got a question in December last year, and this is mad. This really blew me head off. The question we're always saying, like, why can't I do this? Why can't I get that goal? Why can't I do this? And my coach was like, he said, change the why can't I to why don't I want to, which I found really interesting. Wow. So I was like, why can't I get to 10 million quid or something? That's not my goal. But he was like, instead of asking that, why don't you ask, why don't you want to? And then I wrote down all the reasons why I didn't want to. I was like, well, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Instead of thinking, why can't I get sober? Yeah. Right? You could ask, why don't I want to get sober? And then you see the truth. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's not that you can't. Part of you doesn't want to. Yeah. Because you don't want to let go.
Before, there's something there that's
and I was like, that's such a powerful question. Yeah. And I got so many fucking insights when I did that. I was mad. Yeah. Mad. But I'm a big fan of great questions because I believe most of us have the answers. And only we know what makes us tick. Only we know what our values are. Only we know what turns us on and turns us off. Only we know what motivates us and drives us. And you're only going to figure that out by asking questions and getting different looks.
Yeah. Good stuff. I think if anything people can take from this, ask better questions, you get better answers about yourself. And self-awareness. And
questions are the steering wheel of the mind. And your focus, we've talked about attention as the currency of transformation. So even if you're recovering, it's not really about what you do, it's about what you're focused on. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? I remember the first anxiety course I ever did, I was blown away by this. I got a DVD, that's how long ago it was. Stop reading about anxiety because it reminds you of anxiety. Stop thinking about it, hardest part. Stop talking about it. Leave all the support groups.
That was the hardest part for you.
Stop talking about it. Even now, mate, if I do, let's just say I've been teaching somewhere or running a course or speaking at an event, I'm talking about anxiety. I'll start to get some of the feelings. I'll be, what the fuck? Because I've talked about it.
Yeah.
But if I don't give it attention, it dies. Legit, if I do not give it attention, it's like watering it. So every time I talk about the thing, every time I mention the thing, it makes me think about it. So I'll even go, I remember when I first quit the booze, my mates, Scroggs and that, they love to post, when they're out, they love to post a picture of every pint they ever drink. So when I quit boozing, I had to mute the group.
Yeah.
Now I'm not bothered, but if you have a fear of missing, the last thing you need when you're recovering is to be reminded of the thing that you're trying to forget. Cool, yeah. So that's why sometimes I'm like, do you really need to be in that support group where you're just reminded of it? Do you really need to be in that mental health support groups are sometimes the worst? Because that's just often
constant.
Men feeling sorry for themselves and then other men feeling sorry for them. I'm like, do something fucking different. Talk about your future, not your past. Yeah. Talk about your future, not shit about other people. So this whole attention thing is so fucking important, but it's quite difficult to describe what it even means.
I think something that I can relate that back to when I got in recovery, all I wanted to do was, social media, sitting on my phone. I tried not to sit on my phone.
What do you do
I'm
instead?
a human being.
You didn't replace it?
I couldn't replace it. So I'm like, well, how do I now change sitting on my phone to be a positive thing? And I literally had to go through and loads of positivity, loads of progress, all that sort of stuff. Change the algorithm.
I'm going to tell you a little secret. Do you know that change the algorithm is a great saying? Do you know the discovery button on Instagram? Yeah. So my daughter showed my wife my discovery page. Guess what it was on? Full of big tits. My daughter, I was like, Mom, look at what's on Dad's discovery page. So now when I go on, right, I'm sure it's my son on there. But now when I go on, I've got to like all the jiu-jitsu posts and the football posts and the fight posts.
Totally.
Sick.
Good stuff. Paul,
bro.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
to
much,
finish this off, mate.
Thank you.
What are you here for?
What am I here for?
Yeah.
Here where?
Mission? What's your mission?
Oh, my mission is to help men grow their businesses by mastering their mood, mastering their mind, and not losing their shit. That's my mission right now. The reason I say businesses is because I truly believe that I can coach men, don't impact anybody, but where I have the most impact is men that were just like me. Mm-hmm. Men who I've been self-employed for 23 years, which is fucking terrifying. So it just means that when I'm teaching, when I'm mentoring, I've just got more, that's who I am. Experience. It's just experience. So if I've got I've coached, if I've got a 60-year-old woman who was in a job her entire life, I find that more difficult to give someone advice because I'm like, well, I've never been a woman. I haven't been employed since I was 21. I've got kids. Do you know what I mean? I just find it. That's me. My mission is really to impact as many people as I can. But actually, my main deal, why I'm here, is to help these self-employed men get to the next level in their business because I'm driven by that. By mastering their mind, mastering their mood, and not wanting to burn the whole thing to the fucking ground because that impacts their family and everyone around them.
Love it. Thanks for your time, mate.
I appreciate it.
Everything.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for listening to the Recovery Toolkit podcast. If you took something positive from it, then why not subscribe? If you or somebody you know has been suffering gambling-related harm, why not head over to our website where you can join our community? The link is in the show notes.